Hello, and welcome to the Student Experience podcast, where we'll be chatting to members of the University of Suffolk community, giving them the opportunity to share their experience with us. I'm Sam, and I'm a member of the Student Experience team, and in today's episode, we're joined by Nicole Sloman, who is a children's nursing lecturer. We discussed the children's nursing course available at the university, opportunities for students after graduating, and Nicole's journey to becoming a lecturer. Nicole, thanks for joining us today. Would you like to firstly introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Nicole. I am the course lead for the pre-registration children's nursing programme at the University of Suffolk.
Okay, great. So would you firstly like to give us a bit of an overall about the course and how it works from when they start to when they graduate?
Yeah, sure. So it's a three-year course. So we take students obviously want to be children's nurses. I'm sure that's kind of said on the tin. So we have a mixture, really. We have our lovely school leavers who have literally just done their A-levels or their BTEC diplomas or whatever they've kind of done. But then we also have our mature students as well that come in having started, return to education or whatever. So there's a bit of a mixture. So it's interchangeable per year. So the number of students we can take, it very much depends on the placement capacity. So the base sites we have are the ones that say this is how many students we can take. So we run between 20 to 25 per cohort, changing. So we have base sites in, obviously, Ipswich. That's our biggest base site area. We have Colchester, James Paget, Norfolk and Norwich, and West Suffolk in Bury St Edmunds as well. So majority of our students tend to live near where their base site areas are, and then they travel in for lectures. And there is a bus that runs from James Paget currently at the moment for students that come in from that area, from Great Yarmouth area. The course obviously runs as a normal degree course, so it runs over 3 years. It's a bit different from doing sort of say English or geography or something like that, because there is placements aspect to it as well. So there isn't as much time off as some of the other courses. So but when you come out, you have that kind of double award kind of thing, because you'll have your nice shiny degree certificate, and they'll probably go on your mum's wall or whoever's wall, and then alongside that you'll also have the qualification as being a children's nurse and being put on the nursing midwifery register. So you kind of get 2 for 1 kind of thing for your money.
That's amazing. Do you have any specialist equipment that students use because of it being such a niche area and being specifically working with children? Is there anything that they use, be it here, on site, on campus, or perhaps when they're out in the field on placements?
Yeah, so the equipment we have at the within our skills lab here, we have some state-of-the-art equipment. So we have new simulation dolls. So when we moved over to the new building, we had all new equipment brought in. So we have very specific doll that does all sorts of wonderful things. You can hear all sorts of clinical abnormalities and all those kind of things that he does. He coughs and cries and raises his arms, and he can have seizures. We let our students know if we're going to do that one, because that can obviously invoke and he can do various different things as well, which is fantastic. And then we have other facilities. We have the facility of using a range of the equipment. So we can obviously use the adult equipment as well. We can catheterize, we can cannulate, we can do all of those kind of things to support our students to move into practice.
That's fantastic. When students come for an open day, do they have access to those? Do they get to see those live in action?
Yeah, very much so. We set all those up for our open days, and we give them a bit of a demonstration. We get them to do general things. So we'll ask them if they can hear the heartbeat or if they can hear the lungs kind of breathing. We don't, start asking them to decide which lung is working over which, anything like that.
Yet.
Not quite yet, no. I'm very much just getting them to utilise the equipment. Some people get very shy with the simulation equipment, which is quite interesting, because it's obviously very unusual
Yeah.
piece of kit. So it's just getting them used to that from quite an early stage. Because we use simulation equipment all the time, even after you've graduated in practice, they use simulation equipment as well. So it's a good kind of skill to develop quite early on.
So in terms of sort of the theory side of the course, what sort of modules and ways in which you assess them can students expect as they go through the course?
So our course here at University of Suffolk is quite unique in that we develop and deliver very specific children's nursing education. So a lot of the other universities in the area, what they tend to do is they tend to have a more broader approach to how they deliver their teaching, and then they'll bring them out separately for kind of smaller workshops for the different branches like children's nursing. Whereas we separate ours from very early on, from the very beginning, and we teach them a very specific child-based nursing approach. So that is one of the kind of the perks of coming here, is that it's very child-focused from the word go. We do teach across, we do some joint lectures because obviously some things in nursing are relevant to everybody. And then over the 3 years, the modules kind of ramp up. So the first year is very much like that foundation year. And we really go back to basics because our students are so diverse. We might have one student who has got 5 children at home and another student who's never changed a baby's nappy. And obviously going to have very different skills. So we bring them very much back to basics, but also incorporate that peer learning as well, so they can learn from each other in that environment. And so very much that foundation year. The second year is thinking a little bit more about the complexities of conditions and what they might see in practice. And that third year is very much thinking much more about, okay, you're nearly a children's nurse now and you're going to have to manage these patients, and how are you going to do that?
Wow. And do you think the fact that it is so specific from the off, that it makes it such an attractive course, perhaps compared to other institutions that have slightly different offerings?
Yeah, I do think so. And that's certainly something that's fed back to us a lot, even from practice. You know, they've fed back that the students that come from this university seem to, have a lot of knowledge and a lot of confidence with their delivery. And as well, I think we do take off that as a compliment to us as well. We have quite
absolutely
unique skill set. So out of the 4 of us, myself and one of my colleagues has a very much an ITU background. So we've worked in intensive care. And then there's someone else who's worked in the hospice environment and somebody else from primary care. So we have a lot of unique skills that I bring to our teaching.
So you mentioned that your cohorts get about 25 students. Is that generally smaller than a lot of other places, and therefore they get a more personal experience? Or
I think so. In comparison to probably some of our local competitors, they certainly have slightly larger cohorts. And obviously the way we teach them means that they have a much more classroom-based delivery. So we teach in a classroom area. There's lots of discussion. There's lots of interaction. We obviously do use things like PowerPoints and things like that, but from a more kind of so we don't go off tangent more than anything, which I'm very good at talking about something completely irrelevant. My students laugh at me because they're, she's off again. But certainly it gives us that, it does give us a uniqueness, definitely, that we are a little bit smaller, and we know our students very, very well. When they graduated, I could have told you, every single one of them that had children, probably could have told you how many children they had, where they lived, what their base site was.
Wow.
So we get to know them really, really closely. And I try really, really hard to remember their names from the start, which can be really tricky, but I really try, because obviously we are delivering that kind of one-to-one approach.
Yeah, it's such a personal touch, which students always appreciate. I think it's really helpful. And nursing can be so difficult, particularly when you're working with children, and I imagine it's really emotional. What other support, be it relating to learning or anything else, what support is there available for students?
So as part of our course, we allocate our students to a personal academic coach, and that coach will stay with them for the whole of the 3 years. So we don't chop and change them around, so they have one person.
There's that sense of continuity.
Yeah, a sense of continuity definitely for them. But within the university as well, there's counselling services, there's learning support, all those kind of things. And we really encourage our students to access what they need. And I do very much say to them, you are a customer of the university, you are paying for a service. How much of that service you need is very individual, but actually access everything you can, because there isn't so much of a waiting list within the university, because you can access services. So we do have a lot of our students who come to us and they do have a learning need, and this is new to them. They just thought they struggled at school and all these kind of things. We've had quite a lot of students who have found out as adults that actually they have neurodiversive needs, which have been supported through the university.
That's really, really great to hear. So if we sort of look again at the placements, what sort of placements can students expect to be going to? What sort of areas?
So it does depend on their base site a little bit, because obviously different hospitals have different levels of care. So, for example, Norfolk and Norwich is a very, very large hospital that has intensive care, that kind of thing. And so the experience of students in that particular placement may be slightly different to students who are experiencing placement at West Suffolk in Bury St Edmunds, because it's a much smaller hospital, it's a district general. So that does depend, and obviously that will be very individual to the student. And so they will have a mixture of placements within the hospital and within the wider community as well. So they might have a special school placement. They go out to special schools. They might go out with the school nurses, community team. They might go out with a health visitor. They might go to the hospice, for example. Within the hospital, they could be anywhere from day surgery outpatients to the neonatal intensive care area, A&E, children's ward. There's all sorts of different placements where they might be. And then within that session as well, the children's ward will actually try and organise them what we call spoke days. So they might go out with the physio team one day, they might spend another day with the play therapist or the school team, so that they can see what other individuals within that multidisciplinary team actually do, as well as what their own role would be.
Oh, that's brilliant. So I guess as they move through as well, they'll get more and more responsibility in terms of what they're doing, less shadowing and maybe more.
Yeah, I mean, obviously throughout the whole 3 years, they're always supervised, whether that is somebody kind of behind them over their shoulder, or I'm not saying they do that, they don't, or a bit further away, but certainly they're always supervised. But yeah, very much so. So their final placement in their final year, their very last placement before they qualify, they will do something called a management placement, which is 450 hours over 3 months, and they will very much be taking on board maybe an entire ward, maybe a whole bay, but that would very much be their management responsibility. Obviously, they will have somebody to go to in case of emergencies, but they also might be managing staff and other students in that area as well. And it's very much getting them used to doing that. Just prior to them doing that placement, they actually have a management and leadership module, and that very much ties in that teaching to then helping them, support them to do that management placement.
Preparing them to go out into the workplace. Yeah, that's fantastic. What, in terms of career opportunities, I know you've spoken a bit about the mixed practice that they get to experience just through placements, but what else is there? Because I think I'm coming from this with a very limited knowledge, and some other people listening might also not know about all of the opportunities that are out there for someone with this degree.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Obviously, I'm sat here as a lecturer, so already
that's number one.
Already a bit diverse. And to be honest, if you'd said to me when I first qualified, "Oh, you'll be a lecturer in 20 years," I would have said, "No, I won't," because it wasn't on my radar whatsoever. So I come from a neonatal background, so I worked in neonatal intensive care for 15 years before I started working in practice development and then became a lecturer. My colleagues have worked in paediatric intensive care. They've worked in primary care. So one of our colleagues at the moment, she does 1 day a week, and her previous job was working in a GP's practice as an acute practitioner. So she's done additional postgraduate qualifications to support, that kind of environment. There's lots of postgraduate opportunities in children's nursing, and it is getting more and more diverse as obviously the needs change within the service. There is the opportunity to work in children's mental health as well, working in the hospice. You can travel. I once worked with a nurse who was, she'd worked as a children's nurse on a film set where there were children. They had to have a children's nurse that was qualified. So she'd worked on a film set as a children's nurse. Some of them go and work at Disney. They work on cruise ships. There's so many opportunities of different places where you can work. Yeah,
I wouldn't even thought about that. The fact that they need nurses in those situations.
Yeah, definitely.
So for people out there that are listening, they like the sound of what they're hearing. They think they might be interested in applying. Have you got any advice for them as they sort of make their application in order to stand out? Yeah,
definitely. To be honest, a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on their personal statement in terms of, but one thing one thing a lot of us don't like about the personal statements is you can only write one. And so if you're applying for more than one course, it makes it really difficult. So I would say to write your personal statement for the course that you really, really want, and make sure that you've had a really good read about that course. And go to open days. That would be the biggest thing. Go to open days. You don't really know about whether you will like somewhere until you've been there and actually had a feel around, and is this campus for me? Because every campus is so different. And even from a postgraduate perspective, I've done lots of postgraduate in all sorts of different places, and actually a lot of them I've gone to the campus and thought, actually as a pre-reg I wouldn't want to have been here. Some of them are quite spaced out. It depends how comfortable you are with the type of campus. One of the things that's really nice about this campus is that everything is within the same sort of geographical area, and it's quite a close-knit campus. And when during the summer it was really quiet and it was a bit eerie, and now all the students are back and it's really lovely and it's all kind of bustling, and that's what's really nice, because it's not too spread out. You kind of get that clustering of students, which is really nice for the kind of feel of the campus.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to make sure where you're going is right for you. And obviously we hope it's the University of Suffolk, but equally everywhere does have such a different feel. You're absolutely right. For those students who are successful with their applications and we're looking forward to welcoming them to the university, what advice do you have for them? For those who haven't enrolled, they've not even got here yet, they're preparing to come. Do you have any advice that we could give to them?
Yeah, anything you're sent, make sure you read it, whether it's via email, in the post, because we don't send anything out willy-nilly. If there's something in your pack before you come to your interview day, read what's in that pack. If there's links on there telling you to go and access certain things, then read them, because the chances are there might be something about that in the interview day. That would be the biggest piece of advice, really. And just don't be afraid to ask questions and put your hand up and just ask. I think one of the really lovely things about this campus is that everyone is really approachable, and you don't really have to go too far before there's someone who actually will help you. And if you can get to an open day, come to an open day, because actually you'll see one of us. There'll always be a children's nursing representative there, a friendly face, and we try to have two of us on an open day. There's only 4 of us anyway, so you've got 50% of the team right there.
You've already met 50% of your tutors.
Definitely. And one thing that's really lovely about my cohorts have done this for the last couple of years is that they've started like a WhatsApp group before they've already come, and they already know each other. And we're all going to meet in such and such and have a coffee before we all go up together. And just little things like that make a huge difference. So it doesn't have to be the same person all the time that organises things, but it is really nice because they are a small group that, they have that kind of bond together. And one of my students who's just started, and she won't mind me saying this, She's been at another university before, and she said she did a whole course and no one knew her name. She was a massive lecture theatre, and on her first day when she started, I knew her name, and I said, "Oh, there you go. There's your paperwork," and it had everything in it that she needed, and it was just such a personal touch, which made such a huge difference to her. And I think for a lot of our students, that's the difference between us and maybe somewhere else is that kind of personal relationship we have with them.
Yeah, we quite often see students, you might feel the same, that we meet at an open day and then we see them at the post-applicant day and then we get to meet them in the coming term, and it's really exciting to see them as they prepare and then as they come and they are students with us.
You mentioned there about open days and the importance of students coming to the open days. So what are sort of some of the main questions that students come asking you, and then maybe some of the answers that you give them?
They always ask about placement. It's the one thing they always want to know about. And I get it. I do get it, obviously. So they always ask about placement. They always want to know how many hours they have to do, which always makes me chuckle. But there's also that financial burden on them, isn't there, being a student of, actually, if I'm in placement, can I work? And actually some of them just want to know the answer to that question. And they want to know about the layout of the course and how we run things. And it's generally the structuring more side of it, really. And how they're going to be supported in practice is always another thing they always ask. And they're really, I mean, we're all really lucky. They're really lucky because they obviously have us. We do go out into practice. We do visit them as much as we can. And then on top of that, we're always at the end of an email if they need anything. But they've got the practice education facilitators in the trust as well, whose job it is to look after them when they are out there. So actually they have a lot of support. They just sometimes just need to ask for it, which is always, a little thing.
So what advice would you give to students who we have here moving through the cycle, so they're studying with us, just to get the most out of their course and out of the time that they are here and using all of those services, like you mentioned, and getting the most out of their time while they're at university?
I think the biggest thing is time management, and I know that sounds really old and crooked, and I must probably sound like I'm 96 or something saying it, but it makes so much difference when a student is prepared and attend. And I know that that's a catch-22 situation for some students, but there's such a link between attendance and success, and I think sometimes that the idea of an assessment gets lost, and what students will do is they'll always turn up for the session about the assessment, but they seem to forget that the whole point of assessment is to ensure their understanding of what's been taught, which if they haven't been there, then it's going to be that limitation on that understanding. So I say to my students, we don't write the assessments because I like marking, because I assure you I don't. It's about demonstrating their understanding of what we've taught for their knowledge, but also to know, so we know that what we've taught them is the right thing as well. So it has that kind of two-way. And so, just attend, ask questions, just get involved, and really enjoy the university experience, because it's over so quick. And the students say it all the time. But even now, someone said to me the other day, when you remember when we qualified, and I was thinking, my gosh, that was over 20 years ago now. And it's just crazy, absolutely crazy to think how quickly that time goes. But just enjoy the 3 years, because it is up really, really quick. And, seeing my graduates just recently, they're all obviously already started work in practice. And they're all saying, oh my goodness, I'm allowed to have the keys, because they're not allowed the medical keys. They're not allowed to have the keys to the medicine cupboard as students.
Wow.
And they're like, and one of the students was, well, she's not a student now, she was saying, I was trying to get rid of the keys. And then I realised I was allowed the keys. So that transition, that period of kind of no longer being a student comes around so quickly, they don't really notice that it's happening.
Don't even realise it.
Yeah.
That sounds like some really good advice. So just before we move on and chat a bit about yourself and why you applied for the role and what you enjoy about your role here. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss about the course that we've mentioned yet? Or
I don't know, to be honest. My role, obviously, I am the course lead, but I also teach a lot on the course as well. So we're all very hands-on. We all do a lot, and we try to play to each other's strengths. So I will happily run a session that isn't my bread and butter, but if there's someone who knows it better than me, then I will always encourage them to do it, because that's best for the students as well, to get the most out of that session. And I think if you are thinking about applying and you're not sure, just reach out to us. You can reach us on I want to say Twitter. I'm too old. I can't change.
I still say Twitter.
I want to say Twitter. Reach out to us on X or Twitter, whoever you want to say. And there's obviously Uni Buddy is another way they can reach us. Come to an open day or just email us. We have a general children's nursing email address that's on the website. We'll pick up any emails. So anyone that has any questions, and we do sometimes get inquiries come in, and then just email. We'll always get back to you. So we're quite good at getting back to our emails. Our students they say we're quite quick, so we're normally
That's good.
So could you tell us, moving to, a bit more about you and your background and your role, tell us more about your journey before applying to the role, and what first attracted you to the role and the university? What was that process from when you graduated and, as you said, working where you were before?
Yeah, so I studied at Southampton, did a 3-year course in children's nursing. Was a very, very different course from what we deliver now. It was great. The experiences were a mixture because the course was so different. So there was some adult placements as well as child. You can probably imagine which ones I enjoyed the most. And whilst I was training, I was working as a carer. So I was looking after the elderly and going into homes and kind of doing home visits and stuff. So that was what I was doing when I was training. I'm a Suffolk girl, so I moved back here after university. Started working at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge. They're just about to start building a new children's hospital there, so that's really exciting for the future.
Really exciting.
So I keep plugging it. It's like there's going to be a new hospital, so it's quite exciting. And started working in neonates there, and I'd had an amazing placement in a neonatal unit as a student, and the unit at Addenbrooke's is level 3. They take surgical patients, so have a lot of ventilation experience, surgical, pain relief. Lots of pre-post-op care. So it's a real mixture. I did various kind of link roles at the time. And then a job came up in practice development, kind of working with pre- and postgraduate students within the hospital. So I took that role, did that for a few years, and got my qualification in healthcare education. And I'd literally just moved house. The internet had been turned on the day before, and I had a job alert for this job.
Oh, wow.
And I'd been to a couple of interviews at other universities, and hadn't been successful. But I was a bit kind of too-hearted about whether I really wanted them at the time. I hadn't long gone back to work after having my son, my youngest, and then this one came up, and my other half said, "Well, I think that's your job because we literally turned the internet on yesterday, so it has to be your job." And I said, "It's such the wrong time. We've just moved house. I've only been back at work for I think I was back at work for 8 months or something like that." I said, "It's just completely the wrong time," and he said, "Well, it's definitely you're supposed to go for it then." So. I applied. I was absolutely gobsmacked I got an interview because I just thought, well, I've worked in neonates for so long now. They've probably even forgotten I was a children's nurse.
Oh, bless you.
So I had to get over a bit of imposter syndrome a little bit. It happens to us all, I assure you. And they offered me the job the same day. So
Wow.
I started here in October 2019, just before the pandemic. So that was a bit of a baptism of fire, because I was learning how to be a lecturer and learning how to use Brightspace and learning how to do all of this. And then they turned around and said, we're going to do it all differently and go home. So that was a bit of a, that was interesting during the pandemic, working from home with children and that kind of thing. But, and I was still working clinically as well, because obviously they were desperate for anyone who could use a ventilator at the time.
Sure. So that is really, I really admire you for that, Nicole. It sounds like you had your hands really full. But
it was all right. My other half was at home. I wasn't by myself.
No, absolutely. But that is so much to manage. Yeah.
But no, I love this job. Graduation is like the best day ever. In our team, we love graduation. We just spend the entire time trying not to cry, to be honest, 'cause it's just so proud of them. And I think because we know them so individually, we know what journey they've been on, which is probably why we cry. And it's just that lovely time where we just kind of celebrate all their achievements. And for some of them, they probably feel like we're dragging them to graduation because it's been such an uphill journey for them. Of course. And it's just really lovely to see them flourish and to hear the fantastic feedback we get from our PEFs, so from practice, about our students is just amazing. And they do really well. And what I love is when we look in our student, because we still have paper forms of our placement documents, and I open it up and there's a signature there, and it's from one of my previous students, and they're now signing off our new ones. So and that's really lovely, and I really love that. And to read their feedback about the students we've now got is just, absolutely fantastic.
I mean, it sounds like you can really hear the passion you have for the job and how much you love it. So I guess for yourself, there isn't really like a typical day as such. I guess every day can be quite different, which is all part of the fun, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously some days we work from home if we're not got a teaching load, which is great, because obviously it gives you that little bit of flexibility, which is nice about this job. But like today, I've been teaching postgraduates this morning. I'm going to be teaching them all day tomorrow. And that's on the paediatric imaging course, postgraduate that runs here for the radiography department. And then next week, the first years have got their first summative presentations. I'm sure they're thrilled to be reminded of that. So I'll be doing that next week and doing some teaching on other bits and bobs, and obviously doing the course leader bit in the background as well, and getting stuff ready for the next module. So it's all go. No day is the same ever. Which is a bit like nursing anyway, really, to be honest. No day is the same.
Always on the go.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have a favourite part of your job? What is the best part? I feel like I know exactly what you're going to say, given our conversation we've just had. But is there a best part, be it in practice or at the end when they graduate?
I think it's that light bulb moment.
Oh yes.
So
when it all clicks.
Yeah, it's that light bulb moment when it all kind of comes together for them, and you can just literally see them go, oh, that's and that links to that. Oh, I get it now. And because obviously during that kind of level 4 first year, you're just kind of putting those foundations in. So you kind of see end of second year, start of third year, and everything is kind of coming together. And I tell them it's like building a house. You need your foundations, you need your walls to be able to put your roof and your windows in, and it's kind of that's what this course is like. And each module is a different part of your house that you need to have a whole house together at the end. Because the one thing with block and blend, how we obviously teach here, is that it's very compartmentalised, isn't it? You teach one block, you have an assessment, and then you move on. But nursing's not like that. So I like to say, you're building that house, wait for the light bulbs to go on when it all clicks together, but that's what you're doing for the end of your course, and then you can go and do what you need to do as a nurse.
Get out there.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So just before we come on to our final question, we would like to ask our guest if you've got a particular moment so far in your time here that you're most proud of.
Oh, I think so. Not the graduation just gone, but it was the year before. And I can categorically say it was the one graduation where I was a complete mess, bawling my eyes out. And there was one particular student, and I'm sure if she's listening, she'll know, who had a really tough time on the course and wasn't even sure at one point if she was going to make graduation, because obviously there's a cut-off date, isn't there? And finally got her there. It was literally, I think, the day before the cut-off date, we finally signed everything off to get her through that kind of board. And to see her graduate and the excitement she had for the job that she was going to, and writing her reference and doing all those kind of things, was just, the best feeling ever to finally get her there. And she's flying and doing amazingly well. So that was a good moment.
That's really great to hear. I mean, you certainly sold the course to me, and I think probably Lily as well.
It sounds amazing. I wish I could go back and study
you can apply.
again.
Of course you can. Anyone can study at any age. You can study.
That's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
So we've got our final question now, which is our answer one, ask one question. So what will happen is you're going to answer a question from the previous guest, and then you're going to pose one to the next guest.
Oh, okay.
So as we said off air, our last guest was Peter Brown from adult nursing lecturer.
Did he know it was me? That's what I want to know.
No, he didn't. But he did pose an interesting question, which it might be a difficult one, or maybe not to answer. Is where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Oh gosh, 5 years. 5 years is a long time.
Yeah, it is a long time.
Well,
Long
it is
time
a
and
long
no
time.
time at all.
5 years ago you started here, I suppose.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and it doesn't feel like 5 years
Yeah.
at all. It feels like a year and a half. It's been so strange. 5 years' time, I don't know. I've just finished my masters, so and someone made a joke the other day about, you do your PhD next. And I was like, absolutely not. Which is, I think, is still what I'll be saying in 5 years' time at this rate. But certainly, I would like to think I'd still be in education, just because I love it so much. It's great. And what I would really like to do is what we're working towards is really to try and develop the portfolio here at UOS for children's nursing, so that hopefully I can say in 5 years' time we might have a master's going, and we might have some postgraduate stuff going. And certainly that's where we want to go with it, because we're very aware that within the region and wider, that actually there are some limitations to postgraduate stuff for children's nursing, but equally we want to improve that as much as possible. So that's where I'd like to be in 5 years' time. I'd like to be sat here saying, I'm now going to be talking about all these other courses that we're also running. That would be great. That would be fantastic.
Have you got any maybe ideas on what you could ask the next guest?
Oh, to ask the next guest. Okay. So if you had an opportunity to improve one thing on campus, what would it be?
Oh,
yeah.
I look forward to
That's
hearing
really good,
about that. Maybe we should ask everyone to comment
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
What would you improve on campus?
That's good. Maybe we'll just put that in as a question every time. A reference that you
I
mentioned it.
had a brainwave the other day earlier. I was walking past, so you know where the health and wellbeing sign is, which isn't actually our entrance for health and wellbeing.
Yeah.
I'm not selling the course now. You have to go around the back. But as you go round to where the Long Street old building is, there's a little hatch and then like a double door. And I was thinking, wouldn't that be great to have like a sandwich bar there?
Oh my goodness.
I thought, maybe I could sell that. I don't even know what that building's for. I mean, it might actually have a use, but right now I want to sell sandwiches out of it.
Maybe that's another career, another lifetime. You'll be.
There you go. Maybe that's what I'll be doing in 5 years' time, selling sandwiches out of the Long Street building.
We look forward to Nicole's sandwich bar coming to campus 2029.
No, I really, really enjoyed that. It was a great chat. Until next time, it's goodbye from Nicole.
Thank you very much for having me.
Goodbye from Lily.
Thank you so much. Speak to you next time.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Student Experience podcast. If you would like to be a future guest, email studentexperienceteam@uos.ac.uk or follow the links to our application form through our Brightspace page. You can also reach out to us through our Instagram page @UOS_student experience.